our compensation and budget, as you see, salaries, benefits, and the, I still call it CPS, but really it's Concordia Plans now. We dropped the S. I still like the S, right?
Yes.
So, and the compensation tool. And again, today we have Lewis Johnson of Concordia Plans. And Lewis, you just changed positions, I think December 1st, right?
That is
in this
correct.
new role, and you see it there, School Relations Consultant. Items really impacting revenues as well as expenses right now, inflation. I mean, you have to factor in inflation. You have to factor in what it is right now and forecast what you think it may be. I mean, even though inflation numbers, they came out this morning and, oh, they're better and things look great, it's all relative, right? I mean, we're hitting inflation of 6, 7, 8%. Again, wages up 5.5%, and we're trying to figure out, okay, salaries and benefits and personnel expenses, what does that mean? You better be factoring that in, right, Grant?
Because if you have a wage increase from year to year that you think is, a good percentage, all of a sudden inflation jumps and there goes your wage increase. Suddenly it doesn't cover the cost of living anymore.
Yeah, and our wage increases in Lutheran schools, sometimes we have a wage salary freeze. It might be 1%, might be 2%. I think a typical increase that people try to go for is 3%.
Right.
And if you have inflation of 6, 7, 8% and an increase of 3%, losing.
Yeah,
That's a
you're
losing.
You're behind.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely, right? I mean, we know that we don't have enough church workers to go around. We know that we're trying to hire people, and if our salaries are not matching with inflation, we're in trouble. Minimum wage now, many places $15, $17 an hour. I kind of encourage school ministries right now, think about what, if you had a worker, and our teachers mainly are on salary, our administrators on salary, our early childhood workers a lot tend to be on wage.
Yes.
Think about that. If your teacher were on a minimum wage instead of on a salary, what are they truly making? Many times that's below that minimum wage. And you can't flick a switch, it won't change overnight, but that's where we get into strategic planning and figuring out this has to be a priority, so what do we do to make that happen?
That's the point of all those budgets and reports we talked about for the last 5 months or so, is getting a good picture of your organization so you can decide what you need to do to get to where you want to be.
Which is a good pitch, that all of those files are available to you, and we encourage you to download all of those and not just work it out for this coming budget cycle, but again, you should be budgeting 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years into the future to attack these items. Some of the compensation guidelines, districts have district salary scales, so you should be taking a look at your district office and requesting the salary scale, or you can find it online typically as well. Compare, especially locally, what are your non-public schools paying, what's their salary scale, and again, we're not different than other school systems. Catholic school systems, public school systems, all have the salary scale of here's your degree, and you get a jump when you go to bachelor's plus 12. You get another jump if you go to master's and so on, but it's a staircase effect. And then that last line, this is our recommendation, or at least it's my recommendation. You need a salary scale that meets your mission and goals.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Al. And I'm going to maybe take a step back. Yes, it is the Concordia Plans tool, but I want people to understand this is not just Concordia Plans just putting numbers together on our own. And I'm going to go through a couple of slides that will really show, one, how the tool came to be in existence, and really how are we using the tool, who are we partnering with. So I hope people have confidence that this isn't just us sitting here at the International Center just coming up with the numbers, that we're actually taking a lot of data internally that we're getting through the annual compensation reports and rosters and statistics, but actually working with a very well-known outside consultant who is actually helping us to refine the information that you see.
I think that's one of the reasons why it's so useful, because you did work with the outside agency, but you also brought in a lot of people who are workers, church workers in different areas, to look at the tool in the initial phase and to go through that, and business managers, educators, district ed execs, DCs. You brought a lot of people in.
Yeah. So this was not done in a vacuum. So just to give you a little bit of history for those who don't know about the compensation tool, Actually, in my prior role with our ministry engagement team, I was director for the last 7 years, but have been with Concordia Plans a little bit more than 11. Fall of 2015, the district business administrators came to Concordia Plans and said, hey, you guys have all this data that you collect every year in terms of salary. We've got our internal compensation tools that we use, but really would be nice if we had something that maybe took more of an outward in look. And so we started working to say, okay, what could we put together? So the very first iteration, as you see, November 2016, we launched a tool really kind of focusing just on our pastoral ministry side. So associate pastors, senior pastors, what have you, but it was really just focused on the church side. And then you see then in 2018, we started expanding over into the school side. And I'm going to deviate just a little bit. As I was going through the slide deck that was put together for me by, I don't know, some of you might know Beth Jones. She's in our ministry support area. As I was looking at the little illustration we have there, and it talks about there's a couple of scriptures, and as I was looking through the slide deck, I had never really noticed this before. But I just wanted to take a moment. There we go. And maybe you can look at it, just a couple of the verses that really stuck out to me as I was reading them yesterday. So the very first one, 1 Thessalonians 5:12-13. Now we ask you, brothers and sisters, to acknowledge those who work hard among you, who care for you in the Lord, and who admonish you. Hold them in the highest regard and love because of their work. Live in peace with each other. And then 1 Timothy 5:17, the elders who direct the affairs of the church well are worthy of double honor, especially those whose work is preaching and teaching. And then Galatians 6:6, nevertheless, the one who receives instruction in the word should share all good things with their instructor. As we were kind of talking about earlier, I think there is kind of that sense of people who go into church work, whether you're talking to your pastors, your teachers. No, they're not going into it because of the compensation. That's not where their heart is, but that doesn't mean that we should not be caring for them and paying them what they're worth. Acknowledging the work that they're doing not only for the kingdom, but also for the parishioners, the students. I mean, what they're doing is very important and they should be compensated accordingly. So I think sometimes we do take the sense of, well, you know, they're going into church work, so they're taking a vow of poverty. No. That should not be our mindset. You still have to have a family, right? You still have to have a family. The last time, you still have bills, you still have to eat.
Housing, bills.
You name it.
College down the road for your kids?
Hopefully, yeah. Or, whatever life comes, they need to be fairly compensated. Mm-hmm. And I do think sometimes a lot of our ministries do take the impoverished approach of they're going into it not looking for salary, which is true. Yeah,
so we talk a lot of times about the fact of, and it's hard because you got to do this juggling, right, of figuring out tuition that you don't want to price people out, you want to make the school available to all. You're trying to take care of your teachers, and you figure, how do we do this balancing act? And sometimes it's, well, we can't afford a 3% raise, but how about a 1% raise? Or maybe we can freeze salaries for a year or two, and then it just kind of goes on. I mean, the initial thought process is, well, we'll make up, and then just as things happen, you're trying to figure out, and now you get so far behind, what do you do?
Yeah. And we recognize at Concordia Plans, as we've talked about, salary and benefits, that's the lion's share of a ministry's budget. And my role, even though I've always had a focus on school ministry, I think my role as director didn't give me the opportunity to really focus on it full time. Mm-hmm. So in my new role, it is really to understand those pain points for our ECCs, elementary, high schools. Mm-hmm. We think we have a good sense of what those pain points are, but my role really will be to, validate those pain points, mm-hmm. and then internally look at what can we do as the provider and administrator of the benefits to bring solutions that will help on the business side. Mm-hmm. Our push and pull is, we're here to support ministries and care for workers. And sometimes they're at odds. There's that tension because we don't want to put everything on the back of the worker when it comes to the budget. Mm-hmm. So that's on us to try to figure out what is that middle ground where we can, again, support ministries and make sure that our workers are cared for. So with that, we were asked to put together, from an outside perspective, a tool that our ministries could use to help determine what is a good, appropriate compensation for a pastor. Actually, I'm going to go up here a couple slides. You can kind of see here are the different roles that the compensation tool will address. So again, we started with the churches. So you have your sole pastors, senior, associate. Then we started adding some of the other DCEs, DCOs, director of parish music. And then over the last 4 years, now we've really started looking at, on the school side, what job categories should we have in the tool? And we're always asking for feedback on additional roles that we need to build into this. So I'm going to step back, and so you can see, we started in 2016 on the pastoral side, 52. The next year, from 52 to over 1,000 reports were run. Then we added in the schools. So through 2022, over 16,000 compensation illustrations were run.
Wow.
So the tool is definitely gaining traction. I know we have maybe a few detractors out there, but that's, whenever you put out there, there's always going to be someone who's questioning, well, what about this? What about that? And that's great. There are people looking at it, and that feedback is helping us to continue to refine and develop as we move forward.
Well, and I think, Louis, you hit on it too. It's a tool. So it's not the end-all be-all.
Correct.
A salary scale is not the end-all be-all. All these are tools that we utilize to come up with that compensation that works for your ministry.
Right.
And it works. First, you have to have a goal, and you have to make sure that goal for compensation and benefits aligns with your mission statement too of what you're trying to do with church worker care.
Exactly. So some of the things that, like I said, this is not just Concordia Plans, just coming up with our own hypothesis. We actually are working with the national company CBiz to really help us take a look at, one, the data that we collect every year, again, through that annual compensation report and through rosters and statistics. But then CBiz is also then taking a look at industry information and looking at different things. We talked about education. It's not just about, well, do they have a bachelor or a master's? Yes, that is one factor, but what other factors should our ministries be looking at when it comes to how do we make sure that we are compensating someone for their knowledge, expertise, and actually the work that they're doing? So these are just some of the factors. So the nice thing about this tool, again, as you said, it's not the end-all be-all, but there's many different factors that you can now put into the formula to actually come up with what would be an appropriate salary for the individual based on what you're asking them to do. So the report will present, kind of that median right in the middle. Obviously you've got those on the right that are going to be a little bit higher, those on the left a little bit lower, but it gives you a good starting point. But then you can start to add in those different factors. So now you can add in the type of ministry or the size, the commission status, geographic location, education, how much experience do they have, the role of that individual. So these are all factors that help in that output. And for those who haven't used the tool before, you can find it on our website. You just go under the employer resources, and there you see the compensation decision support tool. It's free. So there's no cost for any of our ministries to utilize this tool, whether you're a church or school. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit, but you can put in your factors here. We're saying, we're going to talk about someone on the church side, whether it's a pastor or a parish professional. Here in this case, we're looking at maybe a senior administrative pastor. You put in your zip code, and then you'll have the option to choose your actual ministry. And then you can here's sections where you can put in years of experience, education level, if there's any other factors that you want to add into that. And then it will present a report for you. And so you can see where not only is it looking at market data, but at the very bottom you'll see where it says calculation results for, in this case, this particular ministry was in the North Wisconsin district. So you can see how do you compare with other ministries within your district. And again, it's a good starting point. Again, this is not the end-all be-all saying that you have to do what's on this tool, but it's giving you a good place to start instead of just, taking a shot in the dark, or maybe calling the church down the street saying, well, hey, what do you do? Or, we're trying to give you, again, market intel that it will help you make an informed decision.
I'm getting really caught up reading this report because as an accountant, I love this. This is great. I haven't seen this before, but both my parents are church workers. I know they've used this before, and they both rave about it. It looks like a wonderful tool. It's reported, and it's a very clearly easy to read report as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's outstanding. In fact, again, Louis, the slide where you show it takes so many factors into account: size of ministry location, geography, all of these things. And I love the report too,